Buckle up, explorers! Today's journey takes us to the edges of the map, to places where the ordinary fades and the extraordinary begins. Today we've got a nameless city frozen in time, the search for an ancient battle, and a cave full of glowing skulls. So be sure to subscribe and let's go on an adventure. This city is frozen in time. Carved directly into the side of a Chinese mountain, there is a place frozen in time, whispering ancient secrets. This isn't just a city, it's a riddle waiting to be solved. Let's see what kind of dark secrets we can find inside this ancient place. Welcome to the Guyaju Caves, a masterpiece of ancient engineering that will leave you utterly bewildered. These aren't just a few random holes in the rock. This is a fully fledged city, meticulously carved with a precision that would put modern architects to shame. How in the world was this done? Picture this: kitchens where you can almost smell the aromas of centuries-old feasts, cozy bedrooms where families once gathered together, and grand communal halls that once echoed with the sounds of laughter and celebration. All this without a single brick or beam, held together by the sheer force of human ingenuity. Intricate carvings adorn the walls depicting scenes of daily life and ancient rituals, offering a glimpse into the lives of the people who once called this place home. It's truly mind-boggling to think that an entire civilization thrived within these rocky walls. But here's the kicker: we don't know who built it or when. Theories abound, each more intriguing than the last. Some whisper of the Kumo Shi people, carving their dwellings into the mountainside over 2,200 years ago. Others point to the Liao dynasty, 1,000 years closer to our own time. Then there are the wilder tales: outlaws seeking refuge, soldiers guarding a strategic outpost. The truth, it seems, is buried deeper than any of these theories. With over 350 chambers, including the opulent chieftain's palace with its 8 rooms and rock-cut columns, Guyaju is a place of endless fascination. It makes you wonder, could this city be even older than anyone suspects? The lack of historical records adds to the mystery. Did these people vanish without a trace, or are there stories waiting to be uncovered? Intrigued? I certainly am. If you find yourself near Beijing, a detour to the Guyaju Caves is an absolute must. You might just stumble upon a piece of history that has been waiting centuries to be rediscovered. What do you think happened to the people who lived here? Did they mysteriously disappear, or did they simply move on? Let me know what you think in the comments. Tracking down an ancient battleground. Imagine this: a battle so pivotal it reshaped the course of history, but its exact location remained a mystery for over a millennium. Sounds like something from a fantasy novel, right? Well, thanks to a stroke of luck and some top-secret spy satellite images, archaeologists have finally unearthed the site of the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah. I know you were waiting for it, but in case you've never heard of this, it was a clash that shook the very foundations of the ancient world. You might not be familiar with this epic showdown, and that's understandable. Unless you're a serious student of 7th century history, it's likely slipped under the radar, but trust me, this wasn't just some minor skirmish. In 636 AD, the forces of the Rashidun Caliphate, the newly formed Islamic Empire, locked horns with the mighty Sasanian Persian Empire. The result? A decisive victory for the Caliphate, so crushing that it sent tremors through the entire region. I mean, they wiped the floor with them. Think of it this way: this wasn't just a battle between two armies, it was a clash of civilizations. The Sasanian Empire, a Persian powerhouse, had dominated the Middle East for centuries. But with their defeat, the Islamic Caliphate was unleashed, spreading its influence across the Middle East, North Africa, and beyond. This victory paved the way for Islam to become a global force, shaping the religious and cultural landscape of much of the world as we know it today. Even though this was such a big and decisive battle, exactly where it took place has been unknown for more than 1,000 years. The battle is real recorded history, but all the chroniclers forgot to write down where it happened. Oops! Some even compared finding it to discovering the Holy Grail, a seemingly impossible quest. Enter the unlikely heroes of this story: A team of researchers armed with recently declassified US spy satellite images. These images, captured decades ago during a covert surveillance operation, offered a unique glimpse into the landscape of Iraq. By meticulously analyzing these photographs, the researchers, led by William Dedman from Durham University, finally stumbled upon a series of clues. They discovered a massive 6-mile-long wall, a relic of the past, snaking across the desert edge. Further investigation revealed a sprawling military complex and a large, now abandoned settlement. All the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, perfectly aligning with historical accounts of the battle. This was it, they realized, the long-lost battlefield of Al-Qadisiyah. This 1974 satellite image, once a classified secret, now holds the key to unlocking the secrets of the past. The green line marks the deep trench, while the purple outlines show fortifications. The yellow circle pinpoints the location of the ancient settlement of Al-Qadisiyah, now vanished beneath the sands. And within this vast expanse, where the lines intersect, lies the very ground where history was made. Can you imagine the treasures that lie buried beneath the surface? Ancient weapons, armor, perhaps even the remnants of Persian and Arab camps? The possibilities are truly endless. I can't wait for archaeologists to start digging, which hopefully they will do soon. Just think of how much treasure and how many ancient weapons are hiding mere inches below the ground. And now for a quick break, because it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to Ash, Donnie Newell, and Ermina for supporting this channel. We wouldn't be here without you guys. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and join us. A lost world found in the Alps. A woman hiking in the Italian Alps discovered a lost world 280 million years old. The story you're about to hear might inspire you to pick up a pair of hiking shoes and go in search of your own lost world. Our hero today is Claudia Stephenson. She and her husband were walking through the Valtellina Orobi Mountains Park in 2023 when she spotted something bizarre. She noticed the side of the mountain was covered in strange designs, almost like rock art. When Claudia looked closer, she realized the designs were in fact animal tracks. Claudia knew she had found something cool, but she wasn't sure exactly what it was. So she took a few photos and sent them to scientists, hoping for answers. The scientists reached out to Claudia, saying she had stumbled upon the footprints of a prehistoric reptile, one that lived before the dinosaurs. How cool is that? Claudia's accidental discovery was so amazing that a group of paleontologists climbed the mountain to look at the footprints for themselves. They found even more fossilized tracks, and they didn't all belong to prehistoric reptiles. Some of the footprints were from amphibians and insects. I wouldn't be telling you about some random footprints if I didn't think they were spectacular. When I tell you these creatures were big, I mean they were huge. Even though the animals predate dinosaurs, some of them were at least 12 feet long. They were monsters, amphibians and proto-reptiles as big as rhinoceroses. Finding dinosaur footprints would be a dream come true, right? But finding footprints from creatures that preceded dinosaurs? Talk about a prehistoric jackpot! And that's not all. Further research showed that this was once a thriving community of creatures. Researchers identified the fossilized marks left behind by waves on the shores of a prehistoric lake. It probably looked something like this illustration by Fabio Manucci. Lorenzo Marchetti at the Museum of Natural History in Berlin said the fossilized prints were found in such impressive detail that even the fingernail imprints could be seen. Here is the lake today, thanks to Consoriso Turistico. It's a gorgeous view, I admit, though I can't help but notice the serious lack of monsters. The sacrificial mountain of Petra. You know Petra, right? That iconic city carved into the rose-colored cliffs. You've seen it in movies, documentaries, Instagram, but I bet you have never heard of the high place of sacrifice. Let's go back in time to the bustling trading hub of the ancient world, a crossroads for empires. Petra is the ancient capital of the Nabateans, surrounded by desert and dry, dusty mountains. The Nabateans, those shrewd desert traders, built it into a marvel. The city is in an excellent location, about halfway between Damascus and the Red Sea. You need to know where Petra is to understand its importance. Being in the center of all of these mighty ancient cities made it the ideal spot for a trading post. A small Arab tribe seized the opportunity and built a center of commerce, and they thrived. Facilitating the exchange of goods between powerful kingdoms earned them an astounding amount of wealth. So much wealth that in 312 BC, they were attacked by Greece. They repelled the attack, but it wouldn't be the last one. In 106 AD, the Romans joined the fight to invade Petra. They just couldn't mind their business. The Nabateans were forced to surrender, and that was it. They slowly faded into historical obscurity. Petra remained a functioning city until it was completely abandoned in the 8th century AD. Fast forward to today, hidden away from the tourist trail lies a chilling secret. High above the city, perched precariously on Jebel Madba mountain, is a platform, a place where blood flowed, not for war, but for worship. It's an eerie reminder of a time when ancient religions held sway, and gods demanded blood. Forget the treasury, the monastery, the sick. This is the real Petra, the one shrouded in mystery. The hike up is a bit of an adventure itself. You wind your way through the colorful canyons, past ancient carvings, until you reach the summit. And then wow, that view! Petra spreads out before you. But the real spectacle is the platform itself. Archaeologists believe it was an altar, a place where animals were sacrificed, and maybe even children. The Nabateans, those savvy traders, weren't just about profit. They worshipped Dushura, a god of justice. To appease him, they performed elaborate rituals, including, it's believed, offering up blood sacrifices. Allow me to set the scene. Priests chanting, the sweet smell of incense mixing with the iron tang of blood, the terrified cries of the victims echoing through the canyons. Pretty spooky, right? The Cave of the Glowing Skulls. The Cave of the Glowing Skulls might just be the creepiest place in Honduras. It is a real cave with real glowing human bones. The catch is the scientists don't know who the bones belong to. The cave was never truly lost. Local residents of small jungle villages nearby have known about it for years. It was used at least 3,000 years ago, and generation after generation kept going back to visit the dark passages. However, the outside world didn't know about it until the 1990s. In April of 1994, volunteers with the United States Peace Corps were exploring the cave when they found the first skeleton. From there, the discoveries kept rolling in. Let's take a quick detour. Are you familiar with the ancient Maya ruins of Copan? The city is one of the oldest and most important for the Maya civilization, but it's nowhere close to Mexico. It's in Honduras, a country that most people don't even think about when discussing Maya history. The reason I bring it up is that the vast majority of archaeologists in Honduras focus on Copan, which is about 2,200 years old. But with the discovery of human bones in the Cave of the Glowing Skulls, that changed. Scientists dated the skeletons in the cavern to about 1000 BC. They predate the city of Copan by 800 years. But who could these skeletons belong to? Are they from a pre-Maya civilization? And why do they glow? The glowing question is the easiest question to answer. The way that light reflects off the calcite deposits that grow on the skeletons makes them look like they are glowing. But they aren't actually radioactive. The real mystery is much more disturbing. After the initial discovery of the main bone chamber in 1994, scientists unearthed a tunnel branching into 3 never-before-seen passageways. In total, 23 deposits of human skeletons were found within these passageways. When scientists started excavating the bone deposits, they realized something unnerving. The bones were not initially buried inside the cave. They had been carried into the dark, wrapped in cloth material, and then buried in bundles. How ghoulish is that? It's like reverse grave robbing. The bones were also painted with red pigment. Scientists just figured this out recently when they used X-ray diffraction to identify red ochre and hematite. They even found traces of the pigment splashed on the ground and walls. Maybe they wanted it to look like blood. The experts don't know what to think. Red bones, grave robbing. This is one of the weirdest remote caves on the planet. And to make matters worse, it's impossible to know who's responsible for it. In 1674, Father Fernando Espino said the area was home to more than 200 nations and languages. Any one of them could be responsible for these strange burials. Do you think the burials have anything to do with the Maya? Let me know in the comments. The last great Scottish castle. You are hiking along the Scottish coast, the wind whipping at your face, the salty spray a constant companion, and suddenly you spot it. Tantallon Castle perched dramatically on the edge of a cliff, looking like it might just topple into the churning sea at any moment. This isn't your picture-perfect fairy tale castle. This place has a story, a dark and bloody one. Back in the 1300s, a guy named William Douglas, let's just say his rise to power wasn't exactly squeaky clean, decided to build this fortress. It was the ultimate power move. He basically said to his enemies, "Try and take me on, I dare you." And boy, did they try. For centuries, Tantallon Castle was a thorn in the side of the English. Sieges, they had sieges. Battles, yep. The most famous, or infamous, depending on your perspective, was the clash with Oliver Cromwell. Picture this, 91 brave souls defending the castle against 3,000 of Cromwell's troops. Talk about an uneven playing field. Needless to say, the castle didn't stand a chance. After that, Tantallon was left to crumble, haunted by the ghosts of those past battles. Today, it's a mesmerizing blend of history and decay. So if you ever find yourself in Scotland, do yourself a favor and visit Tantallon. Just be careful where you step. You might not encounter any ghostly warriors, but the crumbling walls and the sheer drop to the sea below are enough to give you a healthy dose of the creeps. Want to know a fun fact? They say you can still hear the echoes of those ancient battles on a windy day. The clash of steel, the shouts of the soldiers, maybe even a mournful wail from a lost soul. The Egyptian Temple. An Egyptian temple lost for thousands of years has been rediscovered, hidden in the face of a cliff in the middle of nowhere. The discovery is so fresh that I only just got the information to share with you. The temple is 2,100 years old. It was found at the mysterious Egyptian site of Athribis, which nobody will blame you for never hearing about before. Athribis is 125 miles from Luxor, in a spot where you don't exactly find hordes of tourists. Athribis was one of the oldest cities of the Old Kingdom, with its earliest records dating to the reign of Pharaoh Sahure 4,500 years ago. The city dates to the era of the pyramids, and it remained occupied all the way through the Middle Ages. Legend has it that in the 13th century, Athribis was home to the most beautiful church in Egypt, although there is no trace of this legendary building today. Archaeologists were shocked when they found a hidden gateway leading into the temple. They also discovered a secondary gateway with a hidden staircase leading up, but whatever the staircase led to was destroyed ages ago. As the team continued exploring the temple, they found more and more amazing pieces of history. They found reliefs depicting King Ptolemy VIII, who lived in the 2nd century BC. They also found offerings to a goddess you may have never heard of before. Do you know Repit, lion-headed goddess? She was the consort of the god Min-Ra, who was associated with fertility. Images of Repit were found throughout the structure. She is known to have had a cultic center in the area, but she is so obscure that nobody knows what she was the goddess of. The last big discovery in the temple was a secret chamber. Archaeologists entered it to find a mess of old temple utensils and clay jars. There was a lot going on here. The biggest sacrifice ever. The site of one of the largest mass sacrifices in human history was discovered in Peru. You're going to be horrified by the number of people who were killed here as offerings to the gods 550 years ago. Not just people, but a lot of llamas too. Many civilizations in the Western Hemisphere practiced human sacrifice. The Aztec, Maya, and the Inca were all a little bit too bloodthirsty. Even the Spaniards were like, hey man, maybe you should just chill out with the killing. We've got that covered, just in a different way. While a lot of examples have been found of these sacrifices, nothing compares to the discovery at Huanchaquito Las Lamas. The site was uncovered near the city of Trujillo on the northern coast of Peru. It's an ancient place located between mountains and desert, with the ceremonial site having been built by the most important civilization in Peru before the rise of the Inca Empire. I'm talking about the Chimu. The Chimu Empire arose in 900 AD, following the collapse of yet another important civilization, the Moche. The Chimu lasted a respectable 500 years, almost 600 you could say. They started to decline in the 15th century and were brought to ruin by Inca Emperor Topa Inca Yupanqui around 1470. It was unfortunate timing because 50 years later, the Spanish showed up. The Inca had been so busy conquering everybody, destroying kingdoms and empires, that Peru was not ready to face an outside threat. If the Inca hadn't spent the last decades on a bloody rampage, perhaps the kingdoms of Peru could have united and beat back the Spanish, then invaded Europe instead. What a weird piece of alternate history that is. Anyway, the Chimu burial found at this haunting site is from the end of their empire. It seems they knew the end was coming and were desperate for a change in fortune. They probably thought that with enough human blood, the gods would help them defeat the Inca. It's always blood. Researchers found the remains of 140 children who had been sacrificed. Without going into ghoulish details, I will tell you that the physical evidence points to them having their hearts ripped out. Archaeologists also found 200 llamas, and the llamas have similar cut marks to the ones found on the humans, suggesting they too had their hearts removed. One of the members of the excavation team was John Verano from Tulane University. The anthropologist was shocked at what was discovered. He said he never expected it. Nobody on the team expected so much horror in such a beautiful location. Researchers don't know exactly what the point of the mass sacrifice was. Maybe it was to stop the Inca, but they were also going through some dramatic weather changes as well. Maybe it was to beg for the gods to help them with their crops so they could survive. Researchers also found the remains of 3 adult skeletons at the site, but they don't seem to have been sacrificed. Researchers think they were killed after the sacrifice was completed. These 3 adults were found just kind of dumped in a pit, with evidence of blunt force trauma to the heads. It's possible these could have been the executioners, and as part of the ritual, they had to be killed too. Is this the longest wall in Africa? Did you know that Africa boasts a wall that could give the Great Wall of China a run for its money? Built over 1,000 years ago by a mysterious civilization, this colossal structure took an astonishing 200 years to complete. That's about as long as a cathedral in Europe. Now brace yourselves for a mind-blowing fact. Africa's Sungubos Eredo stretches for a staggering 100 miles. But there's more. This isn't just a single wall. It's a complex system of walls and ditches snaking across Nigeria like an ancient earthen snake. While it might seem like an abandoned relic today, archaeologists believe this behemoth once served as a formidable defense for the city of Ijebu-Ode. In fact, the Sungubos Eredo might just be the largest pre-colonial monument in Africa. To give you a sense of its scale, more earth was moved during its construction than for the magnificent Pyramid of Giza. Imagine towering walls, some reaching 60 feet high, now swallowed by the relentless embrace of the rainforest. It's a truly awe-inspiring sight, a testament to the ingenuity and ambition of a long-gone civilization. The mystery surrounding Sungubos Eredo runs deep. While local legends link it to the legendary Queen of Sheba, the one with the baby who allegedly stole the Ark of the Covenant, modern archaeologists point to a political conflict around 1000 AD as the likely trigger for its construction. Truth be told, no one really knows the full story. But one thing's for sure, this incredible wall, hidden in the rainforest, is a must-see for any adventurer. So if you're able to check it out, let us know how it goes. The last fortress of the Achaean League. Perched at the foot of a majestic mountain in Greece, an ancient fortress commands the landscape. It has a connection to a legendary confederation that inspired the Roman Empire and the United States Constitution. This isn't just any old ruin. This is the Fortress of Aigosthena, a 2,400-year-old behemoth that once guarded the Gulf of Corinth. Picture this: stone walls stretching from the mountain's base all the way to the sparkling sea, creating a fortified port city more than a simple military outpost. Now, imagine a time when these fortresses dotted the Greek region, a testament to a powerful civilization. Today, Aigosthena stands almost alone, a haunting reminder of that bygone era. It was a little destroyed during an earthquake in 1981, but it's since been put back together. Built around 370 BC, this fortress witnessed the rise and fall of empires. 100 years later, it was seized by the Achaean League, a confederation of city-states that would inspire the founding fathers of the United States. Curious? The Achaean League was a groundbreaking experiment in government, a true precursor to federalism. It was a league of independent cities, each with its own laws, yet united under a common framework. This ingenious system, with its balance of power between the whole and the individual parts, directly influenced the architects of the American Constitution. But here's the twist. The Achaean League, this beacon of early democracy, ultimately fell to the Roman Empire. The Romans, ever the opportunists, exploited the League, slowly infiltrating their territories until, by 146 BC, they had crushed the very system that had inspired them. So you see, Aigosthena is more than just a crumbling fortress. It's a window to the past, a link to the roots of democracy, the rise and fall of empires, and the enduring human struggle for freedom and self-governance. Recently discovered impact crater. They say it's an impact crater from a meteor, but what if something else hit the side of a mountain in northeastern China? Something like an atomic bomb. There's a huge gouge in a Chinese hillside that scientists say was created when an asteroid hit the planet. Ming Chen, a staff scientist at a research center in China, said the meteor impact was a nuclear explosion level of an event. The pit on the side of the Changbai mountain range is unbelievably deep. It's like an ancient god scooped a piece of the mountain out with a gigantic ice cream scooper. The pit is almost 4,500 feet across and 600 feet deep. Nobody even knew it existed until this year because the crater is filled with sediment. It's like a footprint filled with sand. Ming Chen and his colleagues believe the explosion happened 20 million years ago. What makes the crater so unique is that it's 3,000 feet above sea level, and it's only the fourth confirmed meteor crater ever found in China. Some wonder if the crater wasn't made by something else, like perhaps a nuclear bomb going off. Many speculate that humans were already around millions of years ago, but we blew ourselves to smithereens fighting an ancient atomic war. It's possible not every crater on the face of the Earth was made by a space rock, but let me know what you think in the comments. Nepal's terrifying sky caves. 10,000 ancient caves carved into a cliff face must hide a lot of secrets. Also called the Mustang Caves, there are about 10,000 artificial caverns carved into a vertical cliff 155 feet above the valley below, and they are at least 3,000 years old. The sky caves are located in Nepal's Mustang district, which was home to the Kingdom of Lo until they were annexed by Nepal a little more than 200 years ago. The caves are far older than that, though. The earliest were made around 1000 BC and loaded with dead bodies. Yikes! Some of the more recent caves were carved only 1,300 years ago and were places of worship for the Buddhists. So how did the caves go from being graves to Buddhist shrines? It might have something to do with sky burials. Sky burials took off in a big way among Buddhists about 2,000 years ago. Buddhists would leave corpses high up in the mountains so that they could decompose naturally. They also left them there to be picked apart by scavenging animals. It's possible that an even older tradition of burying bodies in high caves was the inspiration for Buddhist sky burials. But what I want to know most of all is why there are so many sky caves in Nepal. A dozen, sure. A couple hundred, no questions. But 10,000 caves is absolutely crazy. Or maybe what's really crazy is that in the 10th century AD, the caverns were abandoned as burial spots. Maybe political instability and violence made the locals seek shelter inside the caves. Maybe they had to, so they kicked out the bones of the dead and repurposed the cliffside holes into their own rent-free houses. There are a lot of theories, but we really don't know who built the caves or when. They could be 3,000 years old or 10,000 years old. This is another one of those mysterious places where the evidence is so ambiguous, you can't tell if it's modern or antediluvian.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed. Abraham Lake, Canada. Located along the North Saskatchewan River in Alberta, Canada, Abraham Lake was created in 1972 as part of the TransAlta Corporation's construction of the Big Horn Dam. At 20 miles long and occupying a surface area of 20.7 square miles, it's Alberta's largest man-made lake, and it is famous for its unique turquoise color, thanks to an influx of sediments from glacial erosion. During winter, Abraham Lake freezes over, trapping methane bubbles that create crystal-like formations conditions below the surface. Methane is released into the lake when organic matter, like dead plants and animals, sinks to the bottom of the lake, causing the gas to form and rise to the top of the water. When the lake thaws in the spring, the bubbles release methane into the atmosphere. However beautiful, these methane bubbles are dangerous, according to environmental scientists, not least because the greenhouse gas is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Researchers fear that this contributes to climate change, especially since they expect the lake to continue releasing methane indefinitely. Man-made lakes tend to emanate more methane than natural water bodies because they are created by filling dry land, which is often full of organic matter, with water. Experts are also concerned because methane is highly flammable, a quality that all too often does more harm than good to the environment. Buzludza Monument, Bulgaria. Located in central Bulgaria, the derelict Buzludza Monument, also called the Monument House of the Bulgarian Communist Party, was built in the 1970s. It is located high on a ridge on a battle site in honor of fallen Bulgarian heroes. Over 6,000 people contributed to building the structure, with many students camping out helping to build the dream. Now it has become the subject of debate as Bulgaria tries to decide what to do with the monuments of its socialist past. Since joining the EU, it doesn't want to remind everyone of its socialist rule. Like many other state-built communist structures, the Buzludza Monument boasts a futuristic architectural style. It looks like a flying saucer was left behind. The interior contains over 10,000 square feet of space dedicated to the Bulgarian Communist Party and covered in mosaics, including the characteristic hammer and sickle communist symbols. When democracy spread across Eastern Europe and Bulgaria more specifically during the 1990s, the Buzludza Monument fell largely out of favor. It was abandoned and has not been maintained, resulting in at least 20% of its mosaics, as well as its copper ceiling, disappearing, while other parts of the structure fell into disrepair. There have been numerous campaigns to save the monument, but the building remains unmanaged and in a decaying state. Urban explorers have managed to get in and take pictures. Supposedly, there is a hole in the cement floor that leads to the basement, and from there you can take the stairs to the main hallway. However, of course, it is at your own risk. Valle de Cocora, Colombia. This is one of the few places I'm going to tell you about that I've actually been to. The Cocora Valley in Colombia's Los Nevados National Park is home to fields of the world's tallest palm tree species, the Palma de Cera, or the Quindío wax palm, which is highly endangered. Also the country's national tree, wax palms grow nearly 200 feet tall. Within the Cocora Valley's mountainous forest is the Bosque de las Palmas, or the Forest of the Palms, a collection of towering Quindío wax palms set against even taller mountains, with cattle freely grazing all around. Reaching this area requires a several-hour hike along one of 4 trails, which can be challenging, especially if it has been raining. The weather here is known for being extremely unpredictable, and if it's sunny in the morning, be sure to take a raincoat. The nearest town is called Salento, a charming, picturesque village reminiscent of Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude. You can take a Willy Jeep ride to the Cocora Valley from there, or of course you can go by horse or bicycle, although you'd better be in good shape. The valley is home to all kinds of wildlife, including hummingbirds, parrots, mountain tapir, spectacled bear, sloths, puma, and whatever these little guys are. We went up the mountain on horseback and it was one of the most magical places in the world. I highly recommend. And now for number 8, but first want to give a big thank you to Jeff Eigenberger and Cheryl Simmons for supporting this channel. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and let us know your dream place to visit in the comments below. Red Beach, China. Situated in the Liaho River Delta in the world's largest wetland and reed marsh, the Panjin Red Beach in Dawa County, China is a protected area that's home to over 400 wild animals, including endangered species, and it serves as a migratory stopover for at least 260 different types of birds. Composed primarily of shallow seas and tidelands, the reed-covered landscape is best known for its vibrant red hue, which it gets from a plant called sueda, also sometimes called seepweed. Sueda is unique because it's one of few plants that can survive in the region's highly acidic, alkaline, saline soil. It begins growing in April and May, remains green throughout the summer, and takes on its famous crimson shade during the fall. Fun fact, known for its high quality, the short grain rice that grows here was recognized as the official rice of the 2008 Beijing Winter Olympics. I didn't know that the Olympics had an official rice. What does that mean exactly? Most of the Red Beach, which gained state-level protection in 1988, is closed to the public. A A small portion of it is accessible to visitors, however, offering non-invasive views of the beautiful scenery. It's important for people to keep a safe distance from the ecosystem, as the fragile wildlife at the Red Beach is threatened by nearby industry, including seafood farms and rice paddies, which compete for space and other natural resources, as well as an oil field, which has obvious potential to cause environmental damage by default of what it is. Devil's Bridge, Germany. While its name is admittedly unsettling, the Rakottsbrück Devil's Bridge in Kromlau, Germany is paradoxically serene. Set against a backdrop of lush foliage in Kromlauer Park, the arched structure was deliberately built so that its reflection in the water below connects with the bridge to form a circular illusion. Like similar structures throughout Europe, it's nicknamed the Devil's Bridge due to the belief that it was so bizarrely spectacular that Satan must have built it. But the construction was built by human hands and with local stone after the local town's knight commissioned it in 1860. The bridge is more aesthetic than practical, hence its tendency to draw spectators who stop by on day trips from Berlin during their travels to Germany from other parts of the world. But visitors are not allowed to cross the bridge for the sake of preserving it, and ongoing renovations have drained the lake it sits over and littered the site with construction equipment until further notice. The ongoing project is expected to continue for several years, which is disappointing, but the good news is that the site will eventually be restored to its former glory. Sentinels of the Arctic, Finland. Every winter, the trees in the Finnish Lapland region freeze over with ice and snow, taking on mystifying shapes and earning them a reputation as the guardians of the North. Otherworldly images of the phenomenon were taken by Italian photographer Niccolo Bonfadini, who traveled to the region and endured sub-freezing temperatures of -40°F to capture his snapshots. Bonfadini titled his series Sentinels of the Arctic, and one of the captivating images was even featured on NASA's Astronomy Picture of the Day website. The snow and ice-covered trees themselves are not the landscape's only breathtaking features. Set against a backdrop of soft colors amid the sunset, including various shades of blue, rose, and violet, and a distinct pink band across the sky, the Sentinels merely accentuate a stunning natural phenomenon known as the Belt of Venus. Mono Lake, California. Occupying a 70-square-mile area at the edge of North America's Great Basin, Mono Lake is an ancient saline lake with an abnormally high salt content measuring roughly twice as much as the ocean. Consequently, there are no fish in the lake, and its water-dwelling organisms are limited largely to brine shrimp and alkali flies. The surrounding landscape is dominated by cottonwood and willow trees, and strange limestone formations called tufa towers dot the lakeshore's shallow waters. Before the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, DWP, began diverting water from the streams that feed Mono Lake in 1941, the lake was far less saline and was more capable of supporting life. Between then and 1990, Lake Mono lost half its volume, dropping around 45 feet. People noticed that Mono Lake was undergoing a damaging transformation long before DWP stopped draining water from it. In 1978, the Mono Lake Committee formed with the goal of saving the lake. The group's efforts paid off when in 1994, the California State Water Resources Control Board ordered DWP to let Lake Mono's water levels rise to 6,392 feet above sea level. As of August 1st of this year, the lake's water had risen to 6,382 feet. Almost there. The sinkholes, Venezuela. In Venezuela's Sari-Sariñama National Park, near the Brazilian border, sits a tabletop mountain, or tepui, called Cerro Sari-Sariñama. The heavily wooded tepui is located hundreds of miles from the nearest road, in one of the country's most remote regions. There are 4 gigantic sinkholes on Cerro Sari-Sariñama, the largest among them being Cima Humboldt, which measures up to 1,155 feet wide and 1,030 feet deep, and Cima Martel, which is around 814 feet deep. The two are located just 3,000 feet from one another, where they are completely surrounded by thick, imposing foliage. These large holes were believed by the native people to be haunted. An evil spirit that lived off of human flesh inhabited the mountain, and as he ate, he would make the noise sari. The dense jungle, the mist, and the desolation only adds to the eeriness and mystery of the place. A pilot named Harry Gibson discovered the sinkholes in 1961, but the first organized expedition into Cima Humboldt did not happen until 1974. The crew learned the hard way that the sinkhole expands towards the bottom, and they became stranded for several days before being rescued. During their time spent trapped at the bottom of Cima Humboldt, the researchers found themselves in a new world full of never-before-seen endemic species found nowhere nowhere else on Earth, who have evolved at the bottom of the sinkhole since its creation, completely isolated from the rest of the world. Unfortunately, the sinkholes of Cerro Sari-Sariñama remain largely understudied because they are extremely difficult to access. Rainbow River, Colombia. Caño Cristales is a 62.1-mile-long Colombian river located in the country's Serranía de la Macarena National Park. Nicknamed the River of Five Colors and the Liquid Rainbow, it boasts vivid colors along the riverbed including red, yellow, green, blue, and black. From June to November, the moderate months between the extreme dry and wet seasons. I haven't been there myself, unfortunately. Maybe next time. The dazzling array of colors results from the reproductive process of aquatic river weeds called Macarenia clavigera. This particular phenomenon, which occurs in a region rife with biodiversity and chock full of endemic species, is observed nowhere else in the world. Colombia's tourism board is taking measures to protect the river as tourists flock to take in its natural beauty. In an effort to preserve the area, the board imposed a daily limit of 200 visitors, with each group numbering no more than 7, and people are not allowed to enter the river's designated swimming areas wearing sunscreen or bug spray. The effort to balance the tourism economy with conservation stands in stark contrast to the situation prior to 2016, when the area was controlled by FARC guerrillas and therefore off-limits to pretty much everyone. Ko'i Kohe Beach, South Island, New Zealand. A series of spherical gray boulders resembling dinosaur eggs, known as the Moeraki boulders, dot the coastline along Ko'i Kohe Beach on New Zealand's South Island. The large rocks are known as septarian concretions, which are hard, compact masses of matter that form when mineral cement fills spaces between particles in soil or sedimentary rock. Septarian concretions contain septaria, which are angular calcite-filled cavities or cracks at the center of the boulder. The boulders are exposed by way of waves eroding the looser surrounding material. Around 2/3 of the 60-million-year-old rocks measure between 4.9 and 7.2 feet in diameter, and the smaller remaining third have diameters of 1.6 to 3.3 feet. Maori legend offers a different explanation for the Moeraki boulder's origins. According to the story, the rocks represent the remains of sweet potatoes, eel baskets, and calabashes that washed ashore when the Arai Te Uru, a large sailing canoe carrying their ancestors to the South Island, sank. In addition to the Moeraki boulders, Ko'i Kohe Beach hosts numerous unique wildlife species, including yellow-eyed penguins, a seal colony, and Hector's dolphins. Socotra, Yemen. Located in the Indian Ocean between Somalia and Yemen, Socotra is an archipelago so isolated that 1/3 of its wildlife is found nowhere else on Earth, including plant and animal species that died out long ago elsewhere. The territory, which is governed by Yemen, sits 60 miles north of the Horn of Africa at the entrance to the Gulf of Aden. Nicknamed the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean, Socotra is home to 307 endemic plant species, comprising 37% of the total plant population. Many of these plants are noticeably strange, or at least unique, including the dragon's blood tree, as well as Adenium socotranum, a pink-flowered tree with a trunk resembling an elephant's leg. There are 11 endemic bird species, including the Socotra starling, the Socotra sunbird, and the Socotra grosbeak, and the only endemic mammals are bats. Over 90% of the mollusks and reptiles on the island are endemic, according to National Geographic. Archaeologists have found evidence of human occupation on Socotra dating back to the 2nd century, and some even believe that the bizarrely beautiful island is where the Garden of Eden existed. Socotra is currently affected by war, and its future remains uncertain as it is currently occupied by separatists who recently deposed the Yemeni government. Between the civil war and the ongoing global COVID-19 pandemic, now unfortunately isn't exactly the most ideal time to visit the island paradise. Thanks for watching! Have you ever been to any of these places? Or which one would you like to visit? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you soon. Bye!